starting to produce some great athletes.
Especially when you think of the competition he's got. If you think about where the top climbers right now in the youth competition come from, they seem to be increasingly concentrated in Asia. We saw in the Youth B last night, and the Japanese women claimed 1, 2, 3 in the bouldering and 1, 2, 3 in the lead, albeit different climbers or in a slightly different order. But yeah, if you're the best lead climber in your category in Asia,
let's have another look at this
handy
move then. Just opting for the footless campus method. The guys will be very at home with that sort of move, but it sucks a lot of power out of the arms early on in the route. It's in the first third. Interesting move from the route setters, but they're going to a good hold. It's more of a one-handed sort of bucket they're going to, but the guys seem to be opting to try and take a rest there off the left heel, shuffling the hands to make room for the match. Kitty Morrison on the left-hand side, firing up nicely through this bottom section. So powerful, the bottom of this route, so steep once again. Women really seem to have had the pick of the steep sections here in Innsbruck this week.
Yeah, it's been something of a theme actually. This men's route, which is on the right as you look at the wall, is up a marginally less steep section than the women. The women route really taking them through the very steepest section of the huge competition wall.
Di Chong did a really cool move there actually. From the right hand bucket, he's now got his right foot in, left hand again, and again. 3 moves in a row, all on the left hand. That's why we're talking about the number of scores that the route setters have and the number of holds on the wall. That's why they're packing the moves. His foot slips just as he hits the right hand. He just manages to reel it in. It's quite an impressive save there. Imagine the panic that goes through the mind as soon as the foot slips there. The body tenses up. All of a sudden you start gripping extremely hard. And yeah, he recovered from that move, but after that he was in trouble. Concentrate on Kitty Morrison, I should say. Yes, this is not far off where we lost the previous climbing. Erska. Kitty's starting to fight now. Really tenuous right heel up, bumps again and falls. It was a good effort, coming off at a very similar spot. The athlete from Slovenia, Erska Rupsik. It's a good burn from Kitty. I wonder what the coaches are thinking. You can see Mark and Ellie down there, her personal coaches, see what they have to think. Bit of a shake of the head at the moment, but yeah, I'm sure they'll take a lot away from that.
Now an interesting climber out next on the men's route, Nathan Martin of France. He won the Youth B bouldering in the last IFSC Youth World Championship. That was in Guangzhou in November last year in the south of China. So reigning boulder champion, or he was until a couple of days ago. Yeah, Youth B bouldering champion just 10 months ago, and here he is in the league competition. We do see him in senior lead World Cups, took part in 2 home World Cups this year, Chamonix and Briançon, albeit without making a final. Also won a European Youth A Lead Cup in Uster in Switzerland earlier this year. So a climb we might have expected to see slightly higher up the order, and if from behind it looks as if he's got a top hat on that is actually his haircut. As with most of the French team that we've seen this week, been hitting the hair dye and the clippers hard. There's a lightning bolt shaved into the back of his head, and the top is kind of a bluey green.
That's definitely the best one I've seen in Innsbruck so far.
Yeah, it's certainly spent a long time on it. Too far away to see if he's done the 3 stripes in the eyebrows as well, but certainly gone hard on the haircut. Tessio of Italy there on the women's route, and you can see there the routes relatively close together today. There's only those yellow holds separating the 2 routes. Men are on the right as we look at the wall, women on the left.
Georgia Tessio then also in the Youth A category, but has competed in the Senior Lead World Cups. She was competing out in Arco as well. We saw Kitty Morris as well. Good result for her out there, 38th. Some good results over the years. First in the bouldering, 2016.
And again, both climbers making relatively light work of the lower moves here. Route setters, a bit like we saw in the Youth B final last night, seemingly packing it all into the final third of the route. What a night that was for Team USA last night. Colin Duffy, extraordinary moment. As I say, go back and watch it. Latched the top hole to win. Exactly how it should be in a lead final, but of course, pretty tough job for the route setters to make it so.
Yeah, after the Youth B women's route with 3 tops on the final, wonder what they've had to think about overnight. They put these routes up last night after the final, so a long night for the route setters. Been up there again this morning, just testing and tweaking and trying to get the level right. We only saw 1 top in the Youth B women's route semi-final yesterday, so the semi-finals were a perfect level yesterday, really. Hopefully they got a repetition of that here today and this morning. Good fight here on the right-hand side for Nathan. Starting to fight, elbows have raised slightly. He's really pushing towards the top of the wall here already. It's a really good early burn here from the French team.
Well, as I mentioned, he's a climber we might have expected to see a little higher up the order. He made it into the semi-finals. That's the crucial thing. Now he's here. He's performing superbly well. He's only got half a dozen or so moves left until the top.
Yeah, it's really high up on the wall now. Here we go. Pushing towards the top. He's currently on move 37 or 40. Oh, and off he comes. That was a great burn. Waves to the crowd. That's a great start.
Yeah, we lost Georgia around hole 35, 36 there. Just confirm as it comes through.
You are in the lead.
So that puts Nathan into a very comfortable lead at this stage. Yeah, 33 plus. It's a new high point from Giorgio Tessio. And a superb high point from Nathan, 37 plus. As I mentioned, there's only 40 holds on the route. So the route setters may or may not be watching nervously. I personally feel he was slightly out of place. Certainly would have expected him to climb later in the semi-finals, and they'll know him well. I suspect they're not too nervous. Absolutely a contender for a place in the finals here. And he's got his work done nice and early, 37 plus. Sit back, try his best to relax and hope he can make it into the top 8. It's like a World Cup. The top 8 go through into the final. In the men's, top 8 in the women. We hope. We have had in the Youth B and Junior semi-finals, which were yesterday, we saw in both age groups in the men's big ties in the results, which saw 13 men go through in the youth into the Youth B final and 12 men in the junior final. The route setters have been looking to avoid that. Such a difficult challenge. We've mentioned it a lot this week, but the route setters really got their work cut out more than ever. And hard to know how much they will have learned from yesterday's action, because this is a different age category, and the difference of 2 years at this age can be absolutely vast in terms of the size and the build, the experience, the strength of these climbers. So how much they can learn from watching one category and then trying to translate it into another category, tough to say. Chatted to them yesterday. I suspect they try and take each category as it comes, treat them individually. Very tough job though, as ever, even more so in the youth category.
Both climbers in the shot there. You can see Hannah Mühl, another familiar name from the German setup, competed in the Bouldering World Cup in senior in Munich, also not very long ago. Really packed in IFSC calendar this summer. Has won a Bouldering European Youth Cup in Sofia, Bulgaria earlier on in the year as well, so a real handy boulderer. Definitely going to be no slouch on the lead as well. Does well to get through to the semi-final here, comes out 23rd position as it stands. Louis Gundolf as well from Austria, definitely be receiving the local support.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day to come and watch some climbing here in Innsbruck. The sun is shining, there's barely a cloud in the sky. It's actually a very pleasant temperature, not too hot. If you watched our coverage from the Senior World Cup in Arco last week, you'll have known just how tough conditions were. Much cooler here in Innsbruck right now, got a very autumnal feel. And in the shade, which obviously is where the climbers find themselves, conditions pretty good on the wall, nice breeze.
Louis Gundolf displaying a lot of power down there. Just a couple of moves past that pocket he's got with the right hand, skipped out the 2 intermediates, went straight to the 3rd hold. He's obviously feeling super confident at this stage. didn't need the in-between holes, just powered straight through. Sign of how much he's got in the tank. Hannah Mule's starting to bite the lips a little bit, starting to fight now at the bottom of this route. It's a really stacked women's route here. 50 moves in total. A long way to go, and it seems incredibly difficult. We've got obviously a Shiva and Brooke Rabatou on this category as well, so that's why it has to be super difficult. And yeah, these earlier competitors really starting to fight around halfway on the route.
And we lose Hannah relatively low down. She will have hoped for better there. We have seen her doing slightly better in bouldering down the years. She's actually in the semi-final in Meiringen back in April, but that won't be enough for the final.
We get to concentrate on Louis on the right-hand side, looking really comfortable up to this stage. Is it going to be a couple of early high points on the wall here? He's got a few moves left in the bank, but yeah, he's looking pretty comfortable at this stage. That right-hand hold he's got is blocked. He drops into the undercut. Now it gets a bit harder. One more quick drop to clip before the lower off, and he's looking pretty tired, and off he comes. That was a good effort. Very close to hold 37 that we saw Nathan Martin get to. It's good. This is going to be a really interesting semi-finals here. That's the fourth climber out, and we're just 4 moves off the top of the wall on the leaderboard already.
Yeah, that'll put him into a fairly comfortable second place, 36 plus, I think. Just wait as the scores confirm. You might recognise there in the crowd in the white hoodie, Jan Hoyer on the left. Just turned his back to us. He's been spending a lot of time in Innsbruck recently, taking advantage of the extraordinary training facility that they built here, the Kletterzentrum. Pretty much in the city centre, and it's got just about everything a professional climbing athlete could wish for.
I think also that Jan's going to be focusing on, with a couple of senior lead World Cups left in this season, he's going to be turning his attention from the bouldering into the lead. That's one of the first times we've seen that from him. He's making the most of the facilities here, like you say, Charlie, just to focus on the leading. I'm sure he'll be topping up the power, no doubt, in the training board. But yeah, it's really interesting to see so many senior athletes hanging out here for the youth championships. Hopefully they'll be passing on some of their wisdom to the youth as well. People like Hannah Mule from Team Germany, I'm sure Jan will be talking with her and passing on some coaching and, like I say, some gems of knowledge.
It's interesting, actually. I think Jan will also be checking out his competition, because bear in mind that Jan Hoyer won the World Cup in Munich in the bouldering, so he's still absolutely at the top of the game in bouldering. He's had a lot of competition recently, particularly from the Japanese climbers, and Jongwon Chon, Alexei Rubtsov's been going well recently, but Jan absolutely in the conversation as one of the world's best competition boulderers. Also only just missed out on the podium in the lead, and what most people don't realise is he's been comfortably under 9 seconds on a speed wall. So whenever you ask the climbers about the Olympics or combined, they tend to give you a pretty flat answer. They don't like to commit themselves to necessarily going for the Olympics, but can't be far from Jan's thoughts, because right now he seems to be absolutely flying in certainly 2 disciplines, and pretty handy on the speed wall as well. So he's be having a good look at the competition here, because these could be people he'll be taking on in the very near future.
Well, these are the people who are going to be taking on potentially the first ever Olympic combined event that's going to be happening this weekend. So the Youth World Championships is being used as a trial. I say the first time that that's ever been used, so we're looking forward to seeing that. It'll be live streamed pretty much all day Saturday, most of the day Sunday. Do hope you can join us for that.
Yeah, if you think we've had a busy schedule up until now, just wait for tomorrow. Have a look on the IFSC calendar and check out the schedule. We've got an action-packed day tomorrow. Full combined event for Youth B and Junior. That's the youngest age category represented here in Innsbruck, and the oldest. And the Youth A will be on Sunday. But Youth B and Junior tomorrow, a full Olympic format event across all 3 disciplines.
Just as we lose Lucas Frankart then from Belgium, just bringing up some statistics on him, and he falls early on the route. He was looking really positive and really powerful up to that stage. Quite surprised to see him fall off there, to be honest. And yeah, we've seen some climbers very, very close to the top of the route here in the men's semi-final, so he'll definitely be disappointed with that result, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was 23 plus for him, puts him down in 5th place. Not going to be enough for the final. 8 out of 29 in the men go through, 8 out of the 26 women will go through. As I say, we've had a lot of ties recently. I hope we don't have any more today, and we just get the traditional 8 through.
gives us an opportunity to concentrate on the women's route and the Czech climber as her foot blows. Eliska had some good performances from the Czech team so far this year, and she's off in a very similar spot as well. That's where we lost Hannah Mule and most of the other climbers today on that section. It was super hard. I think it's the feet there that's really causing the problem. They've got a right heel hook, and then they need to move and bump it into the toe to move up to the next section of cheetah pinches, these 2 green pinches, before moving into the red section.
Next climber out on the women's route, another climber who you feel might have been slightly out of position from the qualifying round, but made it into the semi-final. The key is to get there. Mia Krampel. If that name sounds familiar, it's because she's not only been in the semi-final in the seniors this year, she's been in the final, 7th in Chamonix back in July. She also made the semi-finals in her home World Cup Kran in November of last year. And another real all-rounder, Stefan Fellner, the USA, is out on the men's route. There he is. But yeah, I was about to say Mia Krampel. This same category, Youth A lead, she was 2nd last year in Guangzhou in the last World Championship to some lady called Janja Garmbret. Wonder whatever happened to her.
Never heard of her. Janja deciding not to compete here, even though she's eligible to compete. Decided that she wants to focus on the lead competitions. Took away the 2nd overall in the Bouldering World Cups, first currently overall in the Senior Lead World Cups, with a couple of comps still to go. Edinburgh and Kran.
And Wujong and Xiamen.
Packed schedule still to come, no doubt. So that's why she's decided to take the rest, not compete here. These competitions, this is a huge event here over 10 days, and you can understand it kind of must drain the climbers, not only just competing, but just being around the venue, the music, just the loudness, and the amount of standing around you have to do, the focus, the warming up, the cooling down. So Janja deciding not to compete.
One of the interesting features actually of youth climbing is that obviously because it's done on birth year, you stay in the same age category for 2 years. So Mia Krampel was in this category, Youth A, at the last Youth World Championship, but since then a significant number of top climbers have entered the category because she's now the older of the 2 years. Last year she was in the younger half, and this year, just looking further down the list, Sandra Lettner, Brooke Rabatou, Ashima Shirashi, Laura Rigora have all entered this age category. So as I say, she was 2nd last time to Janja Garmbret, who isn't here, but the competition is now coming from different places. But Mia Krampel, as I say, a climber I would have expected to see higher up the order, was slightly disappointed with her qualifying performance, but the key thing is she made it through and she has the chance to make the finals here in a very sunny and warm Innsbruck. And the finals will be this evening for this age category. We'll also have the junior final as well. That's the older group of climbers, the age group that Mia will move into next Youth World Championships.
Mia onto this hard section now then. Quite a complicated sequence here. She looks like she's going to go for the conventional right-left crossover. We've seen a couple of the girls go up again with the right hand through that section. Now she moves through into the next section, so this is kind of what we expect from Mia. Charlie says she'll be competing well this year in the seniors.
Keep an eye as well, Stefan Fellner of the US, and they both fall at the same time.
No matter what happens in Team USA, it's cheers all round. They always come down looking excited and happy, and hugs and high fives go up every time they come off the wall. It's brilliant.
So Stefan Fellner heads back in. Julien Clemence of Switzerland will be out next on the men's route. Jan Zaraj of Croatia in the women's.
Be an interesting statistic to look at, actually, to see whether in the senior lead competitions what the overall age difference has been over the years for all the winners. It feels to me as though anyway that there's more and more younger climbers starting to come through. Really young climbers, like we're seeing these guys in Youth A getting really good results in the senior World Cups. Feels to me like the age gap seems to be decreasing. Years gone by where climbers in their mid-20s coming up to 30s would be dominating the sport. Now it's really the youth, and if anybody at home's got spare afternoon and a lot of time on the laptop, they would be really interesting to gather those statistics and see what is the overall kind of average age that people are starting to compete now and do well in the World Cups.
Yeah, it's a good point, but interestingly enough, in the men's senior lead, Roman de Grange has just come into his own in the last few years, so maybe there's hope for us veterans, senior seasoned competitors. Certainly in the women's, Melanie Gambret absolutely dominating proceedings the last couple of years, and still eligible to compete here in Innsbruck, but choosing not to. Colours are similar here, but it's Croatia on the left, Switzerland on the right. We mentioned it a bit yesterday, Switzerland do seem to have a good pool of talent to draw on. Seems to be just churning out decent climbers.
I think the Swiss team as well, they're really focusing on this Olympic triple discipline as well. That's part of their setup now. If you want to compete in the Swiss team, you need to focus on all three. Not seeing so many individual specialists as you have done over the previous few years. See Petra Klinger, one of the senior athletes who's world champion, and currently she's actually a specialist in ice climbing as well as the bouldering. Does a few routes as well, so Petra Klinger will be leading the way, but it's the youth who are focusing on the speed as well as the lead in the boulder.
Julien Clemence now, the younger half, born in 2001, as I mentioned earlier. His birth year, and it covers 2 years, so he'll be eligible for this category again in the next Youth World Championships. Climbing nicely at this stage, bang on halfway up the men's route, certainly in terms of holds, not in terms of height. There's much more moves in the top half of the wall than there is in the lower half, so he's just approaching mid-height on the wall, but he's midway in terms of moves. Lisa Raj, meanwhile, on the women's route, climbing quickly, heading up towards a quite distinctive 3 red volumes. She won't quite get there. Final for her, unfortunately, and looks disappointed. Good climbing country, Croatia. Some decent crags down there.
That section where she fell there, that really seems to be the crux of that route at the moment, or the first initial crux anyway. Men's route doesn't seem to be quite the same. Super powerful though through this section. It's easy to say there's no crux, but the difficulty in that section looks staggering. Big jugs used though, but big dynamic moves through them. Quite a showy route. This is really the modern style. Flying over to footloose moves. We've seen 2 or 3 moves in that route using the same large dual texture pockets. Oh, just seemed to fumble the next hold there as he went to the clip, just lost his orientation slightly. Fell Swiss athletes off. Julien Clemence.
Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one. He was just about to find himself on slightly lower angle terrain than what had preceded it. It's the very steepest section of this men's route. And then we can see the scores. Giorgia Tessio still leading the way, and Mia Krampel currently in second. It's going to be a tough watch for them, watching the rest of the climbers, hoping they've done enough. Nathan Martin, meanwhile, still comfortably leading the way in the men's. Selina Schäuble, meanwhile, Austria out, and then it will be 2 Slovenian climbers. Slovenia well represented, as you would imagine. 5 women in today's semi-final. For now, it's Austria on the women's route, Russia on the men's. Alexei Yakushev. I've just heard the venue MC introducing him.
Perfect weather for sports climbing here. Sun's out, crowd enjoying it, but a nice cool breeze blowing across the arena. Absolutely spot on. Let's hope the routes are spot on as well. The men's route seems to be, I think we're going to be seeing a few tops on that one. As long as we don't have more than 8 tops, we'll be alright, but that would be a tricky situation to be in going into the final. We don't really want to see a count back. Some of the results last night going down to time.
Yeah, ideally we don't want ties. I'm just looking down the scores now. Currently got full separation. None of the men currently tied, and a couple of ties in the women's on hole 30 and 28 plus, but in the men's so far, 7 climbers, 7 completely different scores, so that's good. Long may it continue. Count back at time never quite seems the way to decide a lead final to me, but it has to be done somehow, a bit like a penalty shootout in football. Doesn't seem the fairest method, but seeing as nobody can think of a fairer one, you've got to get a result somehow.
Yeah, it's a really tough situation to be in. Like I say, it's the best of a bad bunch of concepts at that point. There's not really any other option. They've tried a few things over the years, but yeah, the time is what it takes. And it's easy to say, oh, the route should just be the perfect level, but it's so difficult to achieve that. Good fight on the left-hand route on the bottom right of your screen. The Austrian Selina Schäuble, just as she comes off. Local MC tried to get the crowd behind her, but it was a bit too late, unfortunately. She fell.
Beginning to fill up the venue here in Innsbruck, right outside the Kletterzentrum. Wonderful view onto the Karwendel peaks behind.
It's quite interesting actually when the local MC really gets the crowd going. I do wonder, for some athletes it may work, whether the cheering, everyone's shouting your name, shouting come on, come on, come on, or whatever language they speak, LA or Gamba or whatever it may be. Just the screaming of that, I feel like for some athletes that definitely works for them. But some athletes it may be off-putting or may make them flustered slightly. It'd be interesting to know what most athletes think of the noise and the cheering, or can they even hear it? Are they completely blocking it out? Good view there on the right-hand side. Oleski. A cool section there. You can see how good that hold is for the right hand, but no options for the right foot, just smearing, but opting to take the match. I've seen some of the guys just cruising through that section, but he decides to take a rest, and it's this next section with the left hand. 1, 2, is he going to go 3? Has another look. There it is. Gets 3 scores for the price of 1. In these youth competitions, that's a good tactic employed by the route setters to try and guarantee some separation, is to add in a lot of intermediate holds. Obviously helps them factor in the different heights that you're going to see throughout the competition as well. You will generally see a lot of holds in a short space of time. Oh, and just as he fires over, super powerful moves. Feet go, fires off.
Again, ready to take off, ladies and gentlemen, representing Slovenia, 6 years young. And the leader ranking, world ranking is 7th.
Luka Rakovic then starts her campaign through this bottom section of volumes. A nice looking start to the women's route. Just looking over his shoulder. 6 red squadron volumes in a row. Quite interesting, the modern style of using volumes. It actually gets a slightly different pump going to the conventional in-cut crimps. Really open-handed and actually surprisingly hard to use for the feet, no matter how big they are. Obviously that right foot's good, but the lower left foot smearing on top of the volume. It's actually trying to adopt the crimp on the left-hand side there. See that a lot in the younger competitors, trying to really crimp a lot of the holds in a non-conventional crimping holds, such as slopers. You see a lot of crimping in the slopers. You can see there she's opting for the crimp with the left hand rather than the pinch, and the right hand, so she's really favouring the crimp grip. Good for getting it locked in. She's crimping absolutely everything here, so she's a crimper, that's for sure.
Yes, moved up from Youth B, where she was in the last Youth World Championships 10 months ago. So, moved up an age category. In the Youth B lead last year, she was 15th and 8th in the bouldering. So, if she can move up an age category and also improve her result, that is superb progression. First year in this Youth A category. Next year in Central Saanich in Canada, she'll still be in this age category in the next Youth World Championship. Leo Ferreira of France is on the men's route.
Yeah, Leo was 9th last time out in Mitterdorf for the European Youth Cup. So he'll be looking to up his position from the semi-finals. Looking to push to one more further place at least to get himself into a finals. French have had a pretty good showing here this weekend in general.
He's actually left the hair dye at home. Unusual for Team France, it would seem, in these championships. Climbing well on this lower section, not wasting any time. Look at Rakovic, meanwhile, is just about to come off the steepest section of the women's route, and there you can see those 3 distinctive volumes above it, almost figure of 8 shaped. A few more moves to go.
Luca moving into this crux section in the middle of the wall then. Oh, she tried to drop back down with the right hand, but she's in desperate trouble there. I think with her style of climbing, crimping a lot of the holds, a lot of the slopers, she definitely wouldn't have been enjoying that next section. Didn't get there, unfortunately. Another climber drops around the 27th hole, 28th in that position. Start to see the chalk building up in that right hand pocket. It's a big jug, but the chalk will have a negative effect on the friction in there. Shouldn't affect the competition too much, but we were having a cleaning break on the men's route roughly halfway through. As always here in the semi-finals, the route gets a clean.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Luca's score to come through actually. Keep you up to date as and when it does. Cracking fight so far from Leo.
On that wide shot you can really see the wall here in Innsbruck. It's stunning with so many volumes on it. One of the finals routes for tonight's final is already on the wall. Here we go then, it's Leo moving his way into the top section. We've seen 2 climbers already up at this point, struggling a little bit. Just smearing on the right hand. See that the red volume for the feet. Push towards the top of the wall now. Oh, his feet is what went. You can see he's slapping his thighs in anger, just unhappy that he's lost his feet. He looked good in the arms, but got to keep the feet on.
Yeah, it looked as if he just upped the cadence a bit there, upped the pace. Obviously felt quite confident on the couple of moves before that. Perhaps just slightly zoned out. Looks as if he didn't move quite as neatly and precisely on that last move, and it cost him. Still, that will put him pretty high up the order at this early stage. As Mike mentioned, some of the finals routes already on the wall here in Innsbruck. Of course, this area is open to the public and the competitors aren't supposed to see the routes. The route setters will change them slightly. There'll be some volumes on that they then take down to disguise what the moves really are. But we can get a basic idea of what is to come in this evening's finals. But as I say, the route setters try their best to disguise the moves and stick extra holds on and move holds at the last minute. That's Czech. Slovenia, second Slovenia in a row.
One of 5 Slovenians in the female category as well, so Team Slovenia on a dominant force here at the Youth World Championships. You can see a lot of those. I'm sure they'll be progressing into the seniors later on, and with the likes of Mina Markovic and Ganya Garnbrett in their national team set up. Got a really good set of inspiring athletes, and that was quite interesting for Lana. Went up, got the clip, and then reversed a couple of moves to take a rest. Wise climbing. Let's see if it works for her.
Look at Rakovic, score come through, 27 for her. men's competition. It's France, Austria, France. Nathan Martin currently leading the way, still holding the lead. 37 plus as this semi-final goes on. That's looking an increasingly good score. 36 plus for Luis Gundolf, Leo Ferreira, 35 plus. That's current top three. 4 moves clear of anyone else.
Out on the men's route then, Lavjema Alba from Sweden.
Begins to produce some excellent lead climbers, Sweden. Got good facilities. Remember going to the Legends Only competition in the Klettercenter in Stockholm. Really impressive facility.
Well, they've got a good set of outdoor climbing routes and boulders as well, and from what I remember, some incredibly stiff grades as well. So if you can earn a few high grades there, you can definitely climb hard routes elsewhere in Europe. I'm sure he's been on a few of those as well. A lot of these climbers do enjoy the outdoor climbing as well as concentrating on the indoors. It's not for everybody though. Some climbers do prefer just to train indoors, just to climb on the competition style routes. Don't blame them, good sport it is too. See the shake on the right foot there, just how bad that is, that right foot standing just on the top of that hold. Now we can start to see the moves outright. Shaking a lot here, Lavjema. Maybe that's just his style. I don't think it's necessarily a sign of fatigue because he looks incredibly strong. Just tilts the head back for a rest.
The incredible lock-off power, he's just kind of leaving himself over with that right arm. Bottom right of your screen, Lance Krusek of Slovenia. You can see now elbows out, beginning to fight. Will slap with the right hand and land it. Suddenly seems to have refound some composure. You can see there the climber's pretty much at exactly the same point on this huge wall here in Innsbruck. And again, she gets another move. Big slap with the left. Looking really tired now, but getting move after move. And that will be her on hold 32. 31 plus, I'm pretty sure her score will be.
Chasing down Georgia Tessia, still a 33 plus, which was just moving off the first of the red volume, so quite close to a high point there. Have a look at the body tension and strength here. Lavjema is so impressive. He just looks like he's got bags of power. Legs still just twitching slightly. He'd definitely be enjoying this route. This is his style. Fires up with the right hand, but comes off, unfortunately, just powered out. Power endurance so key on these routes. Definitely not your traditional endurance test piece here. It's very physical. A lot of big moves, couple of foot off moves, couple of cut looses, one out to the right and then back to the left later on.
So up next, Jana Messner. There's a famous climbing name. Out in the women's route, there she is. Nikolai Uznik, who we already saw in action very successfully in the bouldering earlier this week. He'll be climbing on the men's route. If you're just tuning in, Charlie Wasco and Mike Langley here in Innsbruck. Our last semi-final in the league climbing. This is Youth A, the middle age category here in Innsbruck. Climbers born in 2000 and 2001, and there are 26 women, and due to ties in the qualifiers, 29 men. And we're not too far off halfway.
Jana Messner then from Italy. Lots of semi-finals for her in the last couple of years. Not found any finals though, so she'll be looking to one better that here this weekend. Big cheer, that means an Austrian has just come out.
There he is, Nikolai Uznik, 6th in the bouldering, made the final. Got a couple of tops there. You might be able to hear a little cheer there from this Austrian crowd. Our commentary position right next to the wall and the crowd, getting the best of the atmosphere. Nikolai Uznik underway. Ditto Jana Messner.
Nikolai, intelligent start there, getting 2 clips at once. Firing through this first section. He seems to be an athlete who enjoys the pace, likes it nice and fast, very powerful, so this route could be right where he wants it to be. Big holds, big moves. 40 moves in total, so not a traditional endurance test piece, like I said. Very different to the women's routes, an extra 10 moves on that one. And actually, you'll see it slightly later on. You can see that huge pocket up to the top of the screen and on the right. 3 scores for the left hand, all right next to each other there. So realistically, this was more of a 37 or 38 move route rather than 40.
And this is the 11th woman out, Jana Messner, and the 11th man, Nikolai Uznik, and they're pretty much at exactly the same height on the wall. So men's and women's semi-final, progressing very similar rate. Don't forget there are 3 extra men. Nikolai Uznik, very awkward clip there, had to reach over. Luckily had the shoulder flexibility to do it, but certainly not the most comfortable position to clip from.
Actually see a really good shot there of the figure of 8 knot from Jana Messner. That's a question yesterday on Twitter, saying what knot can the climbers tie him with? They can only tie him with the double figure of 8, with a figure of 8 with a double stopper knot, I should say. It's the only knot they're allowed to use. That's throughout all of the senior and junior competitions. No bow lines or overhand knots or any other knots you can think of. Oh, good save there. She's in big trouble here though. Jana Messner still fighting those, sticks it with the front 3 fingers, with incredible contact strength. Oh, and goes again with the front 3 to the next hold. How she managed to get that score was quite something. Just kept bumping up between the holds, fighting for every single point. Once again, we're seeing climbers dropping around that mark, 28.
Irina Varick will be out next in women's competition. Team Russia, and Laura Lammer of Austria will be the 13th climber in the women's competition, after which there will be a cleaning break in the men's. We'll have the clean break after the 15th climber. And for now, concentrate on Nikolai Uznik. Excellent all-round climber. As I mentioned, made the bouldering final, aiming for the lead final to boot.
So now he's got a really good right heel hook in there. It's helped him a lot just to take a rest, to get the quick draw, but he's got to release that, fly the right foot up and start into this really powerful section. We said at the bottom of the route, this could be his kind of cup of tea through here. So here he goes, looks at the big rollover, cuts his feet, doesn't look 100% comfortable, but regains it nicely. Oh, now he's happy. Bumping between these next section. Oh, and comes off on that next section. We've seen 2 climbers get a fair bit higher than that. Wasn't supposed to be. It's meant to be for the Austrian. Nikolai, he looks so at home on the big rollover move to the left-hand side there, but then when it came to the next move, hit the hole, didn't hit it 100% correctly, and was off.
See there, Georgia Tessio still leading the way. We're approaching halfway on this women's semi-final, ditto the men's. Nathan Martin's still leading the way. As we mentioned at the time, the route setters might have been slightly anxious watching those performances, wondering if they'd slightly undercooked the route, but it would seem they've got it absolutely spot on, and they were just 2 superb performances early on in the semi-final.
She was the runners-up of the Youth World Championships 2015, Irina Varick.
Irina Varick then starts her campaign. A good view of the bottom half of the women's route here. See the blue route on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. Those routes were used yesterday in the Youth B and the junior categories. certainly getting the screams of Davai. She had a really good competition in the European Youth Speed Cup, 9th in Imst, Austria 2017. May have just heard the statistician in the arena just repeated the same stat. So great speed climber. Also had a 10th in the World Youth Championships in Guangzhou last year in China 2016. So yeah, very competent all-round climber. I said earlier from the Swiss team, we're starting to see that in the youth categories. She could well be one of the athletes we see later on in the combined event. If you want to get through to the Olympic combined event here in Innsbruck, part of the trial Olympic format, you need to compete in all 3 disciplines. In the junior and the youth B categories, it will be 6 athletes that go through to the Olympic combined. 20 go through in the Youth A. That's to do with the Youth Olympic Games going on next year out in Brazil. It's part of the selection event for that. More details tomorrow on that one. So we have a look at the Olympic combined event tomorrow. Lead, speed and boulder. As we say, the first time we've seen that. At the moment, it's Irina. Have a look on the left-hand side of the wall. A lot of sports taping on the right-hand side of her shoulder there. Work on the muscle stability. You can see the watch as well. Time not really been a factor in these routes here this weekend. Nobody timing out as we're aware. Really interesting. Had a huge pause. Look over to the right there. Maybe that's a sign of early pump. How difficult this female route is in the beginning. Really seems to be a theme of the routes here this weekend. It's the feet that's the problem. A lot of climbers very happy on the handholds, but it's the feet that's causing the problems. We go Asia from Spain on the right hand side now, getting really high up on the route. This is looking good. He's chasing down Nathan Martin's 37 plus 2 more moves and he'll be there, but he's looking pumped. Oh, just fires up to the left hand pinch but comes off. He was looking really good up to that point, but just a pump kicked in all of a sudden. That was a good burn. That'll put him very close to the top 3. See if that's going to be enough. Still got a long way to go here in the men's competition. That was climber 12 out of 29.
So next on the men's route once again, Spain, Guillem Gasca. As I always find myself saying, do apologise if my pronunciation slightly off the mark there. It's not a language I ever got to grips with, despite numerous climbing trips to Spain. I did try.
I think most of us know the Spanish sort of climbing terms. We know how to manoeuvre around the crag and the bar, and that's about it, I think.
Laura Lama will be out on the women's route in just a second. No rush for the women. They almost certainly will be finished first anyway. So the judges and the IFSC officials don't need to rush them along.
No Jim Pope from the Great British team. He actually speaks Spanish, so we might have to check in with him over lunch to get our Spanish pronunciations dialed.
Yeah, I saw Jim earlier on. He's watching with interest. Been competing in the juniors and at senior level over the past few months. As Mike mentioned, had a full summer in Europe, including a month at Seus. It's a tough old life, but he never grumbles, Jim.
Laura Lama then comes out to compete 9th in the European Youth Cup in the speed. So two good speed climbers out on the wall. Well, the previous female athlete was good in the speed as well. She was 8th in the European Youth Cup. She next climber out. Laura 9th in Imst, 10th in the Youth A Youth A European Youth Cup lead in Mitterdorf in 2017 as well. And a 12th in the bouldering, so lead, speed and boulder. Sure we'll be seeing her. Will she be able to get into the top 6?
Yeah, remember of course, massive weekend of action coming up, and it is the Olympic combined format. It's the top 6 athletes in Youth B, top 6 athletes in junior, and in this category, Youth A, it will be 20 climbers in men's and 20 in the women's. So, packed schedule, and the way it will work is it will have all of the Youth B action and all of the junior action tomorrow, and then all of the Youth A on Sunday. So we'll focus on one age category at a time, and they'll climb in all 3 disciplines, one after the other. Very excited to see that. First things first, so we need to find 8 climbers to go through to the Youth A final.
So powerful, that section on the arms. It's, you can see there's no foothold at all through there, and that's, these young climbers will really enjoy that section. It's an opportunity to kind of show off your power. It really sucks up the energy. Just as we lose Laura Lammer on the left-hand side. A very similar score to a lot of the other female athletes. You can see the grimace on the face there. Gilliam fighting really hard now, opts to match that hold before the next roll. This is another hugely powerful section, real power, endurance for 3 or 4 moves here. Goes to the volume, but there's nothing there. Spot of trouble here, needs to get the clip as well. He's got it all to do.
Yeah, it looked like he knew the time was up, but on those last couple of moves just couldn't find a position either to clip from or to carry on. And that is midway in the women's route. Laura Lammer, the 13th climber, so we'll have the cleaning break on the women's route, but the action will continue with Pietro Biagini on the men's route.
We were just talking about the knot earlier. One item you can obviously notice there with the figure of 8 is the fact when you take a huge whipper off the wall like that, the figure of 8 gets extremely tight, and we see it in all of the competitions. Adam Ondra out in Arco took a huge fall. One of the bigger athletes, probably close to the 80 kilo mark, would have been struggling to get that figure 8. He had to get somebody else to actually undo it for him. I'm sure we've all been there as route climbers. Sorts it out though, walks off stage, back behind the wall.
If I'd been the guy helping Adam out, I'd have been all over that. But telling my mates in the pub, yeah, Adam's hands weren't strong enough to get his knot undone, so he gave me a shout and I went and helped him.
He had probably just done an 8C or an 8C plus up to that point, that your mates didn't need to know that.
Exactly. You've either got the strength or you haven't, that's the way I see it. So here's Pietro Biagini, who's 5th in the bouldering final, so we've already seen him on 2 of our live streams, the Youth A boulder semi and final. 3 tops for him in the boulder final. Another all-rounder. Here he is, trying his luck. Youth A semi-final for the lead, and you can see there the left-hand side. That's not a climber getting a very generous belay. It's the route Seth is giving the women's route a clean. Midway through the women's route, after Pietro, we'll have Yufei Pan of China. Very promising climber, I should add, out next, and then the men's route will be cleaned. Yeah, Yufei Pan, those in the know in the Chinese climbing scene have been saying keep an eye on this guy. He'll be out next. Pietro Biagini absolutely up there as a potential finalist in this lead competition. 2 finals would be a pretty good result for him.
We saw this a little bit yesterday in the semi-final. Some of the climbers coming out early. We got early high points from Nathan Martin, who's currently leading away at 37 plus. He came out 3rd. Oh, he just slips off unexpected.
Slip low down. I was just saying, Pietro Biagini, somebody you suspect could make the final, and he slipped very low down. Hopefully we can see a replay of that, because that came very out of the blue. Interestingly enough, on the women's route, I was about to say, we haven't seen any disasters, any slips very low down. The current climbers, 13 have already been out, and they are separated by just 6 moves. Lowest score we currently have on the board is 27, and the highest is 33 plus. So only 6 holes separating the women.
And the women's category is incredibly stacked at the top 5. Sandra Lettner, Brooke Rabatu, Vita Lucan, Nolwenn Ark and Ashima Shiryashi all have been competing on the senior tour. That is why we're not seeing climbers very high at the moment. It's a very vast, diverse field here.
Yeah, just to confirm, that's just 12 plus for Pietro Biagini. Puts him in 14th out of 14, not his day today. As I mentioned though, this man very worth keeping an eye on in the years to come. Yufei Pan of China, the Chinese coaches and background team, very high hopes for him.
Yufan just making the most of his 40 seconds extra observational period then, just comes out, does the climbers thing, waving the arms in the air, looks through the sequence just to re-memorise just the first few sections.
Interestingly enough, the Chinese team have been entering Yufei Pan in plenty of senior events. Just quickly run you down his results. Last year, 2016, we saw him in plenty of bouldering competitions and speed. He did the bouldering in Kazhou and Chongqing, also did the speed in Chongqing and Nanjing. He entered the Munich World Cup, he entered the World Championships. Seen him making that much headway in terms of results. He made a semi-final in the lead in Xiamen in 2016, but they've been entering him in speed, lead and boulder senior World Cups. Absolutely a climber to keep a close eye on. Might not be that well known now, but as I say, we might not have seen him on many of our live streams in semi-finals and finals, but he's been competing in a lot of senior World Cups for someone his age, and the results gradually improving as time goes by.
We talked about a little bit already. I will mention him again, Jim Pope, just because I know him quite well as an athlete, is that he went through a similar process where he was entered into a lot of the senior World Cups at that stage, something like the World Championships last year, because he realistically knew he wasn't quite up to the pace that we've seen him up to now, but it was a great opportunity to gain experience for the later, once his training really kicks in and gets a bit older. It was a great opportunity to get that experience, and sometimes you see teams entering athletes just to get that experience under their belt, like you see in a lot of other sports. Sometimes it's difficult for the athletes to deal with, though. They enter a speed competition having done well in the youth, senior I should say. They enter a senior competition having done really well in the youth, get a pretty good schooling because they're not up to the pace of the other athletes at that stage, but the experience is what they've got to look for and take the positives away from it.
Yeah, he's, as I say, semi-final for him in Xiamen in the lead. And interestingly enough, he did all three disciplines in Guangzhou in 2016 Youth World Championships. He was 9th in the lead, 17th in the speed, and 27th in the boulder. But, as I say, those in the know, very optimistic for this young man's future. China, a place we visit regularly on the IFSC tour. We'll be back there in not much more than a month.
I was just speaking to a colleague of mine back in London the other day. He said she was in Hong Kong over the summer, saw the climbing on the local television set in the gym there. Got the IFSC on, so it's good to see the Chinese getting involved in the competitions, from a general public point of view as well, becoming more and more keen on their competitions. Quite interesting seeing so many of the World Cups going to China. Why do you think that is, Charlie? What's the draw? Why are you bringing the Chinese in?
Well, the Chinese are looking to improve their performance in just about every area of life, be it sporting, economic, you name it, political. They want more influence, they want more success. They're just trying to expand, it seems, when you're in the country, every area of their life, and sport very much part of that, including climbing. But yeah, when you're in China, you do get the impression that they just want everything to be bigger and better than it is now. They will plough resources into achieving that.
Well, I'm starting to see some results as well. Oh, you see the cheeks puff out there. That was a good move. Fighting the hardness of that move. Fires. Big move over to the right, then big move out to the left. That really sucks the power out of the body. Yufei putting in a good battle here. It's a good close-up. You can see how much it means to him in the face, straining. Fires up, sticks it. Now he's into the top third of the route.
Yeah, this is looking very promising. That's hold 32. Lead currently 37 plus, and it won't be enough for a lead, but it will be enough at this stage for a place in the final. Of course, very strong selection of climbers still to come.
I reckon we might see 2 or 3 tops on this men's route. So many climbers still to come. We had the bouldering champion Philip Schenk still to come out. Sam Avazu also super strong. So many strong climbers still to come.
I think that'll be enough for 5th place. It is for Yufei Pan, 33 for him. I fear with the calibre of climbers still to come, that won't be enough for a place in the final.
Women's competition continues then after the cleaning break. Louisa Emileva, another climber very familiar if you've been watching the streams throughout the summer.
Yes, and very familiar if you've been watching our bouldering coverage. She's already got a silver medal at these Youth World Championships. She's climbing here in the top half of the women's semi-final. Second in the bouldering to Ashima Shirashi. Also been speed climbing as well. Another true all-rounder. It's a really interesting feature right now of climbing, particularly youth climbing, of which of these climbers, we keep saying, he's an all-rounder, does speed lead and boulder, which of these climbers will actually make the breakthrough and be in that elite category of people that really begin to push on in all 3 disciplines? Because right now we've got lots of really good climbers like Louisa Emileva competing in 3 disciplines. Which of them over the next couple of years will really emerge as the elite overall climbers?
This is what I'm looking forward to seeing over the weekend with the Olympic combined. Just let's concentrate. I'll come back to that in 1 second. Louisa just onto this hard section. We lose her as well in the same section. Looks devastated as she comes off. But this is what I'm looking forward to seeing over the weekend, the Olympic combined. Are we going to see somebody doing really, really well in all 3? Or is the winner going to be someone like Ashima, who's currently winning the bouldering and the lead? Ashima's leading the overall standings in the UFA at the moment.
Just quickly, speaking of Ashima Shirashi, she'll be out later on in this semi-final, but she won the bouldering and the lead in 2015 in the Youth World Championships, repeated that in 2016, somewhat worryingly enough for the other youth competitors. After this Youth World Championship, Ashima will still be able to compete in the next 3. She will still be competing in the Youth World Championship in 2020 when the Olympics comes around. Extraordinary. She was in Youth B in 2015 and 2016. Now she steps up to Youth A. She's already won the bouldering, so anticipation always high when she's competing.
It's going to be interesting to see if she does continue to compete in the youth, though. You know, she is eligible, but Janja Garnbret is eligible also, has decided to concentrate on the seniors.
Well, I think given that Ashima made the final in her first ever Senior World Cup and was pretty close, I should add, to making a podium, I agree with you. It'd be interesting to see whether she continues with the youth competitions. Of course, getting any experience under your belt, climbing in front of a crowd with an MC, with music, with people cheering, and with pressure, it's all good experience. But it's a good point you make. How long will we see her in the youth competitions? Valentina Aguado of Argentina. Youth Olympic Games, next year in Buenos Aires. How she'd love to be there.
See, even after the cleaning break there was still chalk build up on those lower volumes. Luckily they are pretty good holds, so it's not going to make a huge difference to the conditions. See how difficult these routes are. The route setters on the cleaning break have got to put their climbing shoes on, they've got to take extra equipment, put on the quick draws. They've been at it all night, to be fair, so they'll be pretty tired by this point. Been at it all week, in fact, for many weeks.
Yeah, most of the route setting team have been here a fortnight already. In the bouldering alone, they set 120 boulders, no less, by a team of 8. Used roughly 1,000 holds in the process. Just to give you some idea, we mentioned it last night about the investment that's been made by Austrian Sporting Federation. The hold bill for the opening of this Kletterzentrum was into 7 figures, I'm told, in euros. So we're very lucky that this facility was here to host these Youth World Championships, because obviously we have Youth B, Youth A and Juniors, men and women, lead, boulder and speed, but then we also have the combined format, so even more holds needed, even more resources needed. This competition even bigger than a normal Youth World Championship. And as I say, over €1 million worth of holds here in Innsbruck, Kletterzentrum, and they were needed by the sound of things. Chatting to the route setting team, vast amount of route setting going on for the past 2 weeks.
If you've ever been to an IFSC event, you can see the scale of the setup for everybody. Even just the scale of the tools and the machines that need to set these routes. Huge cranes, huge cherry pickers. They've got a couple of those on standby at all times. The investment is staggering.
It was fascinating actually. I went into the running track at the back of the venue here at the Kletterzentrum, and all the holes for the various boulder problems were lined up, and they filled an enormous space. It was like a five-a-side football pitch, just covered in holes. The route setter's done a great job not only to set the boulders but keep track of them, remember how to get them back on the wall, because obviously they set the boulders and take them down, ditto the lead routes, and then rely on photos and marks on the wall to get them back on. Real challenge. Real challenge here. Through this midsection, the women still only separated by 6 moves. It is so tight. Valentina Aguado breaking through.
She's looking good now. Next move and a half will be a high point. Hits the left hand. That's score 33. Needs to get the quick draw. She can get one more move. She'll be into provisional lead. Does get the clip. Does well on the slopes. That's hole 34. It's a new lead here for the Youth A semi-finals. This is looking good. Goes up to the 3rd volume in a row. Those volumes suck out the power out your forearms. So slopey. No crimps on offer there. Elbows raised, but it was a good burn from Valentina Aguado. Will it be enough to get into the top 8 to get through to a finals position?
That'll be 35 plus, I think. Having a look at our route map. That put it 2 moves clear of Georgia Tessio. Not a million miles off in the women's competition, at least, where we can confirm finalists. There we see it, yep, 35 plus. So there are a few ties previous semi-finals yesterday. Here, much less. Ties in 4th and ties in 6th. And in 8th as well, but generally a pretty decent split, particularly on the men's side. Almost no ties down the order. Virtually none. Currently got a tie for 8th in the women's, but that'll almost certainly get pushed down the order, so it won't mean that we get extra climbers into the final. Elena Krasovskaya is she as Team Russia. So cleaning clearly been completed on the men's route. Setters back on the ground, ready to get going again. Then Krasovskaya finds herself briefly alone on the Innsbruck wall here. Petr Kuric of Slovakia will be out next on the men's route. Then she'll have some company on the wall. So we've just seen a high point set in the women's route. What can Elena Krasovskaya do about that? Been saying it a lot, it seems, already in this Youth A semi-final, but she is now around a 10th in the speed in the European Championships. You might remember in the Dolomites, Capitello de Fassa earlier on this year. Took part in the Mayringen World Cup as well in the Bouldering. And this is her 2nd year in the Youth A category, which means that next year she'll move up to junior. But in Guangzhou, competed in all 3 disciplines, was 9th in the speed.
Well, let's not forget as well that she's the overall combined champion of 2016. She took that gold medal away in Paris. Seems like a lifetime ago now, back here in Paris for the World Championships. She made the bouldering final there.
Yeah, 6th place, 20th in the speed and 29th in the lead, and as you say, the overall champion.
Sean McCall took away the men's overall there. He's been knocking around here in Innsbruck as well, getting his training game on.
Yeah, slightly injured himself, Sean, which is why we didn't see him in action in Arco. Slight finger injury, apparently. But yeah, Lena Krasovskaya, as you rightly say, overall champion. I was about to say in Guangzhou as well, when she's in her first year of Youth A, this is her second. She was 7th in the lead, 5th in the bouldering and 9th in the speed, so that's not a bad set of results at all. Interestingly enough, didn't have the best of bouldering campaigns, just 18th this year.
Russia and Slovakia.
Peter Courage gets introduced to the crowd in the men's route. There he is, bottom right of your screen. Again, not the best of bouldering campaigns for him. In the bouldering, interestingly enough, he was the highest ranked climber who didn't get a top in the qualifiers. He got every single bonus without getting a top in the bouldering. Fairly unlucky results, I have to say.
Heartbreakers. I can imagine he's fallen off a lot of last moves there. That's why that system of scoring for bouldering is so harsh, but that's what the IFSC have adopted. It's what they're going to stick with, and it seems to be a very good system. Other systems have been talked about. Americans using points scored per hold for their national championships, but IFSC preferring the bonuses and tops in attempts scoring method.
Interestingly enough, actually, Petr Kuric, he's moving up from Youth B. This is his first year in Youth A, and he was 17th in Male B lead last year.
Hell of a save there from Elena on the women's route on the right-hand side through that really hard section. I thought she was off for a minute, and it was incredible amount of body tension that she managed to secure that, stop the rotation, and absolutely awesome display of strength. She's off on the next section though, as per most of the female athletes in this half of the competition as it stands.
Petr Kuric climbing himself into a very good position.
Climbing himself into a good position, but slightly wrong-handed on this hole. Can he get the match? Sequence is just off. Needs to either reverse or match. He's looking so solid up to this point. Cheeks blow out now though. Does incredibly well to reverse it and go back up with the left hand. That was awesome. Show of stamina. Oh, now the feet come off. Oh, he's going to be ruining that missed sequence.
It's going to put him somewhere around 5th as it stands. Unlikely to be enough, you'd have to say. Seems highly likely he will improve on 17th from last time out in the Youth World Championships in Guangzhou, and that was in a younger age category as well.
Let's start with the ladies, ladies and gentlemen. With the 5th place this season in Norway.
MC giving it the big up in the women's competition. That's because Chiara Schafferer of Austria is climbing.
I have two Austrians out on the stage now.
Yeah, Stefan Schertz about to come out in the men's competition. There we see him, bottom right, rehearsing. So the Austrian crowd got locals to cheer for on both routes now. Chiara Schafferer cruising through this lower section. Still in the women's competition, we don't have anyone who's fallen below hold 27.
Still, Nathan Martin leads the way in the men's route with a score of 37 plus out of a possible 40.
Yeah, you said it, Mike, that you were worried we might get multiple tops. It's not proved to be the case so far. Nathan Martin's performance looking increasingly impressive as this semi-final progresses. It's always a bit of a strange one when you get a really good performance early on in the semi-final, because you kind of wonder if the route setters have undercooked it slightly. That doesn't seem to be what's happened here.
Yeah, I think generally when the climbers, someone like Nathan Martin comes out and does it incredibly well, the route setters know the athletes well enough to know either and they know the moves well enough to know he's either climbed the route incredibly well or they've undercooked it. They can generally tell that instantly after he's fallen off. So yeah, we didn't get a chance to catch them to see their initial reaction. Still reckon there could be a couple of tops here in the men's competition. Time's going to tell with still a big stack of athletes, strong ones to come.
not too far off, certainly in the women's competition, being able to tell you climbers that will certainly make the final. So, not hanging around at all here. Chiara Schafferer getting straight on with this women's route and making good progress. That is hold number 31 she's got with the left hand, 32 with the right. 35 plus Valentina Aguado's high point as it stands. I think we
just as she dropped off, that'd be 33 or 33 plus. That's where Georgia Tessia was earlier on. She held the lead for quite a while with that score, so she'll put her into possibly third position with that one. Third or second. Charlie said it's Valentina leading the way with 35 plus. That was between the top second and the third red volume in the line on the women's route. So this big powerful section across on the men's route then. So we've seen the climbers start to struggle. Amount of power it takes out. That dual texture, big pocket is big, but there's no texture where the thumb goes, and you've got to pull into the wall like that on these steep sections. Texture is usually critical under the thumb. Design of the hold stops that, makes it an open-handed sloping jug. Here we go into the top section.
Yeah, this is enough provisionally for a place in the final here. Awful long way to go to guarantee it though. Stefan Schertz getting the encouragement of the local crowd, and he will put himself in the final position as it stands. Still 12 climbers to come in the men's competition.
Falling off exactly the same point as the previous athlete, Petr Kurik. On that left hand, pinching sloper.
So Karin Kojima of Japan. What a night they had last night in the Youth B final. Took all 3 medals in the women's side, just as they did in the bouldering. Karin Kojima underway. Sergei Tupshev of Russia will be out next. 2 Russian climbers in a row on the men's route. Some very familiar names still to come in both men's and women's competitions. If you're just tuning in, early afternoon here in Innsbruck, 20 past 1. Wonderful day, sun streaming down. Charlie Bosco and Mike Langley here for the Youth A semi-final in the lead. Second day in a row, packed with lead climbing. If you think these 2 days are action-packed, just wait for tomorrow and Sunday. We've got all 3 disciplines, all 3 age categories, men and women's in the Olympic format. What a weekend it's going to be. So many questions that we will begin to answer about the Olympic format this weekend. Who will be the first climbers to put their hands up as potential Olympic winners? Less than 3 years' time, we will be in Tokyo.
I think the training program is going to be really interesting to learn about for a lot of these national federations. What effort are they putting in? Say 3 years to go. 3 years is a long time in many ways for climbers, especially at such a young age, but it's not that long to prepare for lead, speed and boulder for the triple event, and that's why this weekend is going to be so interesting, because like Charlie said, these are some of the athletes who are going to be competing for some of those spots into the Olympics 2020. Karin Kojima then second in the Asian Youth Championships in Singapore in 2017. Let's see what she makes of this next hard crux section midway on the route.
And interestingly enough, she's the 9th to last climber, which means that after her we can begin confirming people who will make the finals this evening. 2 finals for you this evening. This age category, Youth A, and also the juniors, the older category. Karin Kojima into what is very much proven to be the crux section of this women's route, and absolutely fighting for her life here, up to hold number 31. Tries to cross through to 32, makes it work. Getting plenty of encouragement from the crowd, and that was as she reached out there for hold number 33, so I'm pretty sure that'll be a 32 plus for her. That will put her into 5th place, I believe. Bump down a 3-way tie that we currently have in 5th. Sergei Tyupchev.
Sergei looking really composed up to this point. Seems to quite enjoy the dynamic moves. One of the bigger climbers in this Youth A category. This is the next section that's caused a lot of the problems, though, where the power seems to be sucked away. You can see his right foot just blew there as he went to power over. Put a lot of weight through that to get the momentum across to the left-hand side, but recovers nicely.
Yeah, and he was very much tangled in the rope. Could have been quite a nasty fall, but he managed to avoid it and stay on the wall, and suddenly it was almost as if he needed a bit of a moment to find his composure. Now looks to be somewhat in cruise control.
Looking pumped there for a second on the left arm, but manages to regain it. Just takes a moment to shake. That hold he's on is just blocked in the middle to make it a little bit worse. Anguish screams come out.
Yeah, well,
Sergei.
I think I heard that through your microphone. Very distinctive shout there. Once again, Russia back on the wall. Victoria Meshkova, there she is. As I mentioned when we were talking about Karen Kojima, Victoria is the 8th to last climber out, and is Victoria Meshkova, not Karen Kojima. There we go. Men's competition. Still quite a way to go in the men's competition. 29 climbers came through from the qualifying round. But, Daniel Shuryaev will be out next. There he is, 2nd Russian in a row on the men's route, and it's all Russia on the wall. It's funny how often that seems to happen. Nathan Martin, meanwhile, still leading the way. Climbed very early, climbed 3rd in the semi-final. Still leads the way. Valentina Aguado of Argentina leading the way in the women's. Top of your screen, scores coming across now. Karen Kojima, we just saw her, 32 plus, as I say, puts her in 5th. And then there's a bit of a tie there between Mia Krampel, Elena Krasovskaya and Lana Skusiak.
Just taking the opportunity to have a quick look at the combined rankings going into tomorrow's overall. We only have those scores in the Youth B, and in Youth B women it's quite interesting. It's out of 6 competitors, it's 4 Japanese and 2 French. There are only 2 nations represented in the overall combined in the Youth B women's. I'll take a moment to check into the men's as well, but just 2 nations have got through out of 6. It's quite interesting. It's French and Japanese.
Yeah, well, in Youth B, particularly in the women, Japan utterly dominant in the bouldering and the lead.
Oh, we're looking at the men's as well. It's another 3 Japanese out of 6 in the men's as well. 1 USA, 1 Russia, and 1 Spanish to join them. So lots and lots of Japanese we're going to be seeing over the weekend.
Yeah, as we mentioned, being good at one discipline's not going to cut it, but interestingly enough, you may not need to be world class at all 3. You might need to be able to be world class in 2, and that might be enough. We'll explain more about the combined ranking over the weekend, but just reminding me, looking at 2 Russian athletes, how successful they've been in speed climbing. Will that be enough?
Yeah, only 1 Russian athlete out of 12 in the Youth B get through. That's in the men's.
So all Russia on the wall right now. Daniel Shuryaev. There he is, bottom right of your screen. Meanwhile, Victoria Meshkova into the crux section on this women's route. We haven't had any of the women getting past this section. It's been so tight on the women's route. Still no climber off before hold 27, but nobody past hold 35. She will not make it past hold 35 either. We'll confirm the score in just a second.
Danny's had some good results this year, 2017, as he makes the big move over to with the right hand, 5th in the European Youth Club in Mitterdorf, and he's off in that section as well. It really seems to be a love-hate relationship with the climbers through that section. Some of them just powering through with no issues, but a lot of them powering out.
And I thought initially he was waving to the crowd, but it was actually a big slap of his hand against his leg. Furious with himself there.
The World Cup in Ico on 11th position in Switzerland this season at the IFSC World Cup.
Interesting, out next in the women's category, someone that everybody's very excited to see her into the real top end of the women's now. It's Laura Rigora.
Yeah, 7th to last climber out, so that means that Valentina Aguado is assured of a place in the final. She can't be knocked out of the top 8.
So will we now start to see climbers pushing past Valentina's high point of 35 plus, getting through those 3 red volumes?
Well, Laura Rigora made a final in her first ever Senior World Cup in the lead. Absolutely a major contender here in Innsbruck. Back in the Youth A, middle age category. 2000 or 2001 these climbers were born. Daichi Nakashima of Japan on the men's route. Interestingly enough, they've been climbing, not that it matters at all in terms of score, but they've been climbing at exactly the same pace, the men and the women. 20th woman out, 20th man. Both setting off pretty much the same time, so they've got things absolutely down to a T. Synchronised climbing here. Remember, there will be 3 more men than women, though 29 men due to tie from the qualifying round.
Shows that Austrian organisation there, I think, just like the local buses, leave exactly on time.
They start getting told off if they don't fall at the same time as the person next to them. You might hear the venue MC. Hey, rules are rules. Now Rigora, keep an eye bottom right of your screen. Even in the youth category, she is one of the smaller climbers. I don't want to tempt fate, but we haven't had a climber off before hold 27 in the women's route.
I think that's the classic route setting really with the women's. They get the climbers up and running. We saw that yesterday in the semi-finals in the Youth B category and in the juniors. Just a steady away start and then into the real meat of the route from the sort of second, well, after the first third to the second and final thirds, the route really packs in. It's in the middle here in the women's route in that green section, the big pinches into the red volumes that's caused all the problems.
It's a nice, quite nice sympathetic route setting actually. These are youth climbers after all. You might remember in Arco we had a big jump low down on the men's route, psychologically hard to deal with, and Alex Megos actually fell off at that point, so quite generous of the route setters, you might say, with youth climbers, not to mess around too much with them psychologically, let them ease their way into the route.
Well, I think also time is a factor. You know, these routes are massive here and they need to make sure the climbers aren't really timing out. We had some issues with time in Arco, so the route setters get them quickly through the first section. It does mean they've got less moves to separate them higher up, but Laura Rigora then looking good at this stage into the green section, has to fight quite hard to get that next right hand. Moving up into the set of double pinches then. Laura Rigora absolutely tiny, but looking happy on the big pinches. Now she moves out into the red section. Fights hard off to the right hand side, not looking completely comfortable on that. Traditionally, athletes with smaller hands not too good on the big slopers as we lose Daichi from Japan on the right. Here we go then, up to the third volume. Yes, that's looking good now. New high point, it's Laura Rigora into the top section, moves out of the red into the green. Big move required now up and right. Drops the heel to her toe, pushes high up. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, this is a comfortable lead for Laura Rigora. This is guaranteeing her a place in the finals. She will climb tonight, 7 p.m. the Youth A finals. Laura Rigora will be there. Every move here is taking her further away from her competition. Obviously she will make the final, but this is now affecting when she'll climb in the final. But she already knows she'll be, we already know she'll be there. Goes up, tries to go with the left hand out of there, but a comfortable lead for her. That'll be 40 plus, I think.
Yeah, 40 plus, and she looked like she was just struggling with the sequence there a little bit. Her small frame was being pushed out by those two grey volumes, just straining backwards a little bit off the arms, and had to fire up to a small crimp. Looked like she wanted to go up the right hand. Realised she needed to go up the left. It was just powered out by that point, but a really good burn and gives us good insight into the top of the route. Maybe we'll see a top here in the women's semi-finals.
Lovely view there from Innsbruck. There's the Brandtjoch Spitze. Good local knowledge, if I may say so myself. Laura Gora, just 41. Suspected she might get 41 plus. Either way, it's enough for a place in the final. Valentina Aguado will join her there. The remainder of our provisional top 8 will be looking on nervously.
And on the left, it's Austria. The reigning leader of the world ranking.
Okay, Antonia Spatafrade of Spain on the men's route. Been well represented, particularly in the men's side here this afternoon in Innsbruck. Big cheer as ever when we have an Austrian climber, and this time it's Eva Maria Hammermuller.
Yeah, we've got 2 Austrians left in the competition. They're both in the women's side of the draw. No Austrians left from the men. Best placed Austrian male was actually 16th. Yeah, Austrians not so well represented in the male Youth A category. th out in the draw, but currently sitting high up on the leaderboard, so yeah, done well to improve their positions, but time will tell. There's still quite a few male athletes still to go.
Andoni wasting no time whatsoever, climbing quickly here. Eva Maria Hammermuller slightly slower on the women's route. Will have no doubt heard the reaction of the crowd as Laura Gora pushed through, setting a new high point with every one of her last 5 moves. Eva Maria Hammermuller, bottom right of your screen.
So Spanish athlete Adoni then first in the European Youth Cup in Mitterdorf in the lead. Made finals before that as well, so lots of good competition results for him. And yeah, like you say, Spanish doing really well here at the European Championships. Second yesterday for the Team of Spain in the Youth B.
Just taking time to pose himself. We're not too far off being able to confirm finalists here. Next climber out, Keita Dohi. He will be the 8th to last climber, at which stage we can start saying who will and won't be in the final. Eva Maria Hammermuller of Austria now entering what is very much the crux section of this women's route. She slips, and that will not be enough for her. She holds her head in her hands. Donny, meanwhile, men's route, we focus on him. Really beginning to fight. We haven't seen a top on either route. Goes up with the left. He's gritting his teeth, but he looks like there might be a bit left in the tank here. Needs to keep that precision though. It's one of the first things to go as fatigue kicks in. It's very physical, this upper section of the men's route, and there he goes.
Yeah, you can see he really needs to get his weight across on top of the right shoulder there, on the right foot, which is just a smear on the volume. He's got to commit to smearing on that. His weight was way off to the left. Had to push over, commit to the feet. He's looking pretty gassed by that point. Anyway, it was a good burn from Madoni. Puts him high up on the list. Will it be enough?
Just to confirm, Eva Maria Hammermuller, that was 29. Enough for 16th place for her, likely to move down the order as the remaining climbers come out. Andoni ends up in 6th, 33 plus for him. Again, you suspect that might not be enough. 8 climbers still to go, so nobody yet in the men's side guaranteed their place in the final. Different story in the women's top 3, currently guaranteed to go through. This, our 5th to last climber, is Sandra Lettner, the last Austrian out here in Innsbruck for this Youth A semi-final in the lead.
Staggering set of results on Sandra Lettner's CV, then first in the European Youth Cup in Mitterdorf, second in the Youth A Boulder Youth Cup. 5th, 2nd, 4th, 1st. She's been in so many finals, it's incredible. So she'll be looking to continue that form here this morning here in Innsbruck. She'll be local favourite as well, so she'll definitely have the crowd support. See if she can get somewhere close to Laura Rigora's high point.
Yeah, she's a climber I would expect to make the finals, but as we've just seen from her compatriot Eva Maria Hamelmuller, that crux section of the women's route, it just begins at hole 27 and doesn't let up. Laura Rigora looking extremely impressive. She's through. Valentina Aguado is through, 35 plus, and Georgia Tessio, who set that mark so early on, climbed 3rd in the semi-final, is through as well. She held the lead for a long time.
The mark was set early in the men's as well. It's still Nathan Martin and Louis Gundorf who came out in 3rd and 4th respectively in this semi-final. They're currently holding the lead.
We were thinking that the route setters might have slightly undercooked these routes. They've actually got it absolutely spot on. No doubt they had a heart in the mouth moment. Keita Dohe, there he is. Team Japan, winner of the Asian Youth Championships in Singapore earlier this year. Also won in Guangzhou last year, Youth World Championship. It's in the bouldering, I should add. But Youth A, this is 2nd year in Youth A. He won the bouldering last year.
Nice work from Kate, taking the one-handed chalk up, very Sylvester Stallone, if you're old enough to have seen that film. Cliffhanger, it's hanging by one hand, chalking up. Stunt doubled in that film by the late great late great, and the name was just completely Wolfgang Gulick. Just as I said that, completely blanked out. Charlie's laughing next to me. I just teed that one up and completely forgot his name. I was thinking about him on the way down.
The unforgettable. So Sandra Lettner is now very firmly into the crux section of this women's route. Onto the red volumes. That's hold number 33 she's on now.
Let's go. Let's go.
That's enough for the final for her, and I have to say, looking very solid. She looked like she slapped at a couple of moves early on, and she's spat off by those volumes, but looked fairly in control and will go through with, I'm pretty sure, a 35 plus to put her in 2nd place.
Keith Dohe's looking good also in the men's competition then. Cruised up to this point, had a slight issue lower down, getting his foot in the right position and bumping up. It looks good now, has to reset. Little finger drops off into the drag on that crimp. Starting to look super pumped here. High right foot doesn't help, it shows a lot of power to get across there. This is where we lost his previous climber. Same position, really straining across the shoulders. You can see the winging of the elbows. Tries to drop into the undercut. That was exactly the same as we saw Adoni there. Sort of an action replay. Obviously a hard move there, and we talked about it earlier, how we thought we might see 2 or 3 tops here. Still got a number of athletes still to come, but yeah, it's looking like a really interesting semi-finals with an early high point from Nathan Martin of 37 plus.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, he's now into the final. He can't be caught. 7 climbers still to go. He leads the way, so he will make the top 8. I mentioned when he came out, it's not often I get my predictions right, so I'm going to milk this one for all it's worth, but I mentioned when he came out we'd expect him to be higher up the order. Came out 3rd in the semi-final after a not great qualifying round, and he's through to the final.
So another exciting athlete out next, the phenomenal athlete that is Brooke Rabatou, already a legend in the game at just 16 years old. So many fantastic results to her name. Started to compete now in the IFSC senior competitions. 23rd out in Arco, made the semi-finals there. Also competed in the bouldering. Made 9th position in Vale in 2017, so a great year for Brooke. starting her campaign in the seniors, starting her campaign on this route in the Youth A. Will we start to see someone challenging that high point of Laura Agora?
Interestingly enough, Brooke Rabbitoux and Ashima are actually both born in 2001, so they're moving through the junior age categories, the youth age categories, excuse me, together.
I think with Colin Duffy's win last night for Team USA, I think the Sykes high in that camp. I mean, the Sykes never really that low in the Team USA camp, to be fair, but after what was a staggering show last night in the Youth B male competition, I'm sure the vibes back home in the apartment would have been great, and maybe that's rubbed off on people like Brooke and Ashima.
Brooke second to Ashima in the Youth B lead in Guangzhou 2016. Looking to go one better here in Innsbruck. Again, mentioning all-rounders, Brooke absolutely a three-discipline climber. Making light work of the lower section of this women's route. Suddenly the music changes in the venue, something much more upbeat, and we watch Brooke. Still half a dozen or so moves short of the crux section, looking in complete control. And again, so's every athlete up until now. This women's route really just kicks in almost from nowhere.
Everybody in the arena has come out to watch Brooke at this stage, one of the stars of the World Championships here this weekend.
Yeah, third place for her. Already got a medal from these championships. Third in the bouldering. 11.98 on the speed wall. That's something you should be trying to bring down in the coming months and years, but bronze in the boulder. What can she do in the lead? She's very much into the crux section now. You'd have to say it would be a surprise if she wasn't to make the final, Brooke Rabbitoux.
So Laura Agora sitting up there with a score of 41. Brooks into the slopers now. This is where we're seeing the athletes just behind Laura falling off. Brooks pumping through these volumes, not too many issues.
Yep, she'll make the final. That's enough now from Brooke Rabbitoux. It says that area around those 3 red volumes, so she's done enough. Can she set a high point?
Grits the teeth there as she moves up with the right hand. Huge move up and right. That was a really good effort. You see how hard she actually had to try on that move.
Bear in mind these climbers will have their final tonight, so although Brooke won't know she's in the final, she doesn't actually want to burn too much energy, and she's out of there. Goes through the left hand, exactly what we saw from Laura. Went with the right hand, didn't like it, tried with the left and fell. But that will see Brooke into the final. She doesn't look over the moon. I don't think she's made eye contact with anyone just yet who's to give her a thumbs up and tell her she's done enough.
You do wonder if both Laura and Brooke there went up with the wrong hand just to get the score of 41 because they knew they were already super pumped, or if it was just a route read where they went up with the wrong hand, felt like it wasn't right and came back down. Hard to know. Interesting to find out from them.
Mikhail Tkachuk of Ukraine on the men's route. Just waiting to confirm Brooke's score. She's certainly into the final, don't need to worry about that. Mikhail now really beginning to fight. It's this move up with the right that's proved so problematic. Lands it this time, but the left hand slips and takes him off.
He was crimping so hard on that left hand. Had a slightly different sequence there to the other athletes. Didn't go out to the sloper on the right. Ended up with his left hand on the top 2 of the right hand holds. Crimped the living daylights out of it and went upright. In the end, it wasn't enough. His fingers just blew under the tension.
So 6 climbers left for the men. It's a familiar figure there, making their way out onto the stage in the women's route. Vita Lucan again, a climber you think should be making the finals here. It's amazing in these lead semi-finals how the semi-finals just going along. We're seeing some good efforts, and then suddenly it all just seems to happen at once. The high point seems to just get pushed further and further out. Suddenly we've got people flying into the finals.
I think the high point could definitely get pushed further out with Vita Luke and Norwin Ark and Ashima still to come.
Yeah, had a cracking year in the seniors. Vita Luken, 14th, 15th and 16th, the 3 finishes in Chamonix, Vila and Briançon. Quite been into the finals this year, but I have to say it would be a surprise if she wasn't to make the final here. And you can see right at the top of your screen there, just disappeared, was where this crux section of the women's route begins. All the climbers have progressed so far safely through this stage. Route setters giving them a relatively steady start. The men's youth A lead, and as I said, it so often seems to be the case where we get the wall with the same nationality on it. Luka Potakar, also of Slovenia. The quite distinctive light green uniforms. 5 climbers after Luka still to come. Here's Vita Luken. Women's route. Absolutely a potential finalist, if not better, Vita Luken.
Luka Potka has already been on a podium in 2017 in Imps, a huge lead wall there, part of the European Youth Lead World Cup. Found a 3rd position there, 8th also, made the finals in Mitterdorf 2017 also, so definitely a finals contender.
Yeah, Vita Luken here in her 2nd year in Youth A. She had an amazing Youth World Championships last year in Guangzhou. 3rd place there in the lead. You might remember that day. It was Slovenia 1, 2 and 3 in the Youth A female lead. Vita Luken took the 3rd that day and also took the silver medal in the bouldering.
You can see her really starting to fight here. Big trouble. Oh, she couldn't really seem to find the right foot.
And looks absolutely distraught. That is a big surprise in this semi-final here.
We talked about that section earlier for the feet. So critical to use a heel hook there. She went to stand on top of the hold. So bad to stand on. Falls off halfway down in that real crux section. We've seen so many athletes fall there.
And that is not going to be enough to make the final for her. Yes, 29. Big surprise here on the women's competition. Vita Luken, last year's silver medalist in the bouldering, bronze medalist in the lead in Guangzhou just 10 months ago, and she will not make the final of the lead here in Youth A in her 2nd year of Youth A competition in the Youth World Championships. 2 climbers still to come on the women's semi-final. It's Norwin Ark and Ashima Shirashi. Crowd growing as the prospect of seeing Ashima in action looms. We can focus though on Luka Potakar. 5 climbers after him to come on the men's route.
Yeah, 5 climbers still to come. It's 33 plus that currently gets you into the final, with 3 guys tied on that in joint 6th, which means you need to get up into the head wall. So a lot of work here to do for Luka.
Norwin Ark is out.
Oh, another Slovenian falls early on in the route, caught his leg in the rope as well on the way up. Definitely not going to be enough for Luka Potka. Needed 33 plus to get in. Not going to happen.
Here's Norwin Ark. We have got a tie, just to give you some idea. We've got a tie. Chiara Schäferer and Selina Schäuble, both of Austria, are currently tied in 6th place. If Norwin Ark and Ashima Shirashi therefore secure a place in the final, that will become a tie for 8th place. So we're potentially, assuming Norwin Ark and is quite an assumption, so we'd have 9 climbers through into the final.
In that crux section on this women's route, hopefully we'll see Norwin get up there. It really seems to be, if you get through that section cleanly without any foot slips, and you're into a really good position to try and tackle the top of the route, but it really seems to be that section that's causing all of the grief.
So Noah now finds herself alone on the wall. Masuki Tajima, there he is, makes his way onto the men's wall to give us some company. Noah still 7 or 8 moves below where the crux section really begins. And once again, don't want to curse anyone, but we are yet to see a fall below hold 27. Extraordinary cluster in that women's competition. Mizuki Tajima easing his way into the men's route as well. Noah now arrives into the real meat of this women's route. She is the second to last climber out. She will need a score of 33 or better to guarantee her place in the final. 33 is the first of the big red volumes. Just to give you some idea of where she's at. She's closing in on them now. That's hold 31. 32. Plenty of encouragement coming from the crowd. Moves out to hold number 33. Are we going to see a new high point here? This crux section has proved so difficult. Reaches up now, that's hold number 34. It becomes 35 once the other hand joins it. There we go. So she'll be into the final, we know that.
She's into the final, but I was just going to say, into the final, but can she push Brooke Olawa Agora off of the spot? She does look round, she realises the coaches are giving her the thumbs up. Big smile on the face as she walks off, she's done enough.
Yeah, that was pretty real-time feedback. She lowered off with her head in her hands, looked up and obviously made eye contact with somebody who gave her a thumbs up. She'll know that she's done enough. So Ashima Shireshi comes out last. She will be the final female climber out. Keep an eye on the scrolls. Brooke Rabatu is leading the way. 41, same score as Laura Rigora. Are we going to see a top here in this semi-final? It seemed initially like we might see too many. As it's turned out, we haven't seen any at all. Some superb performances early on in the semi-final.
Mizuki then into this next section. A couple more moves and he would have secured his place into the final. Currently he is 33 plus. You see the scores on the top of your screen there. It gets you through. That's 33, he needs to move into the next move. Oh, that's going to be 33 plus as well, so we could potentially be seeing 9 athletes going through into the finals.
Yeah, I've got potential for some quite big ties in the men's, and I don't know why it's been the men more than the women, but we had a big tie. 13 climbers from the men's side went through to the Youth B final, 12 went through to the junior final. How many will go through in Youth A? And Ashima Shireshi gets a very big introduction from the venue MC here. Arco 2015 Youth World Championships, first in the lead, first in the bouldering. Guangzhou Youth World Championships 2016, first in the lead, first in the bouldering. Innsbruck Youth World Championships 2017, already won the bouldering. Can she add the lead as well? Can she make it the triple-double of gold medals? The youngest climber in history of either gender to climb 9A outdoors. Managed that at just 13.
It's one hell of a CV, that's for sure. Makes for incredible reading. DJ's put on the intense music as Ashima starts her campaign on this route. We know it's possible to slip off early. Any slight error through that section in the middle was a real cause for concern for the athletes. So let's see what Ashima can do. I saw her father walking around the arena earlier, scoping out the routes.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I think if you're looking for chinks in her armour, you have to look towards speed climbing 12.98. But as Mike and I were saying, time will tell whether, 12.79. Time will tell whether it's just enough to be amazing in 2 disciplines and pretty decent in 1 when it comes to the combined format. You would think it would be enough, but we need a few competitions just to figure out exactly how the rankings will unfold. We know the theory. What will it be in practice? But as I say, Ashima, she's under 13 seconds on the speed wall, but if you are looking for chinks, maybe needs to find a little more speed. You thought under 11, if she could maintain her form in the lead and the bouldering and go under 11 in the speed climbing, she really would be in an extraordinary position.
Ashima showing her really fluid style once again here. Makes no mistakes in terms of the route read. Technique is absolutely on point on every single move. President of the IFSC, Marcos Galaris, has just walked onto the stage, having a little watch of Ashima as well, so crowd comes together here to watch Ashima in action, and this is the section, and if there's going to be any problems on this route, it's going to be now.
Bottom right of your screen, Harold Peters of Belgium. He's the 4th to last male climber out. We'll keep an eye on him. Here's Ashima launching into what is very much the crux section here on the women's route. We haven't seen a top in either the men's or the women's. This is our last chance to see one in the women's. Can Ashima do it? She doesn't need to do it, of course, to secure a place in the final. A score of 33 or better will see her through. That's hold number 31, 32. This here, 33.
We talked about it a lot yesterday about how you need to perform in every single round, just in case when you get through to the finals there's a situation of countback. So Ashima will be trying to put in her best possible performance here. She won't just trying to scrape through to the finals. She'll be looking for a top here, no doubt.
Yeah, if you saw our highlights from yesterday, I mentioned that one thing we've seen, particularly from women's lead climbing over the past couple of years, is how important it is to score well in every single round, because countback has been crucial, it seems, in the majority of lead World Cups, particularly on the women's side over the past couple of years. So Ashima now into the final, but what a strong position it would put her in if she could set a new high point here. 41 the current high point. Laura Gora and Brooke Rabatu. Ashima there, I can't quite see where her hands are. I think that's hole 39 her left hand's on. It is.
Ashima looking incredibly comfortable up here at the moment. Brooke and Laura wasn't looking quite so steady. Ashima taking time to take on some chalk.
Harold Peters, meanwhile, getting plenty of encouragement for the crowd, and he is off. That will be a 31 plus for him.
There we go then. Ashima looks like she's going to go up the right hand, sticks it. First climber to stick that hole properly with the correct hand. Now she's in the lead.
So Ashima will not only make the final, she will also, if it comes down to countback, have the lead outright. This is all new ground on this women's route. That's hold 43. That key move there, we saw Laura Gora and Brooke Rabatu try with the right, not like it, then try with the left. Ashima went with the left first time. It looked like she was pretty close to the limit of hanging on, but she did hang on, and she takes the lead here in the semi-final. She'll appear in the final, and she will have the lead if it comes back to countback.
Ashima moves into move 44 of 50 then. Everyone wants to see a top here. This could be the perfect way to end the semi-finals. We had a top in the Youth B semi-finals in the women's yesterday. Can Ashima equal that with the only top in Youth A? Ashima Shiriashi really showing her dominance of the sport once again here. Elbows are raising slightly, but she's fighting hard now. This is a real show of her dominance compared to the other athletes. She looks like she could be off here, but she's fighting hard. Oh, it's a great burn. The crowd loved it. That's a good performance, really showing her talent. Took away the win in the bouldering. Looks like she could be in fine form once again. Could possibly take away the win later on tonight.
Yeah, she's got a minor advantage going in. She's in first place, so if there are multiple tops in the final like we saw last night in the Youth B, Ashima will win it on countback. I believe that's a 47 plus for her. Just waiting for her score to upload. Meanwhile, 143 on his back. Shuta Tanaka of Japan, underway on the men's route, third to last climber. We were focusing so heavily on Ashima there as she pushed through to a new high point on the women's route. We can confirm the women's final for you. It was 47 plus for her. So there is a two-way tie in 8th place, so we'll take 9 climbers into this evening's final in the women's competition. The final will be Ashima Shiriashi, Brooke Rabatu, Laura Gora and Nolwenn Ark. That was the last 4 climbers out, and Sandra Lettner, the last 5, excuse me. So all 5 of the last climbers doing the business. They'll be joined by Valentina Aguado, Giorgia Tessio, who set that high mark very early on, had the lead for a long time today. Chiara Schäfer, of Austria, and Selina Schäuble, also of Austria. So the 9 climbers through to the women's final tonight. You can see the scores coming up. Tie in 8th place means we'll take 9 climbers through. Men's competition. Meanwhile, our 3rd to last climber, Shuta Tanaka.
Also going to take, currently as it stands, 9 through in the men's with a tie on 33 plus, freeway tie on that one. Can we see people being squeezed out of that 33 plus?
Yeah, Tanaka, Sam Avazu and Philip Schenk all have to do better than 33 plus, or we're going to have a big tie and big numbers through in the men's final.
Seems to be a theme here in the lead, but that's not uncommon in the youth climbing competition. We do see a lot of ties. I don't think there's any move in particular you could argue that was the reason for the tie. I think the routes look incredibly sustained. Each move looks like it's ramped perfectly. It's just the way that youth climbers seem to separate does seem to be, we get a lot of climbers falling in the same spot. They just seem to be very, very similar in the way that they climb, the methods they use, and the ability just seems to be so equal to each other. That's why we end up seeing a lot of ties. Goes to the right hand again. That's the correct sequence. This is looking good. He needs to get the next hold and move successfully into the undercut to secure 34. Otherwise, he's going to be joining that group in the big tie. Does get through to the finals if he secures it. That's a position in the finals now.
Yes, and as I say, we didn't see the top of the women's route. Shima Shirashi came closest. We haven't seen the top of the men's route. Can anybody do it? 3rd to last climber here, Shuta Tanaka. Absolutely in the business end of this Youth A semi-final in the lead, and he is out of there and he is into the final.
Yeah, good burn from him. Score of 36 plus. Nathan Martin still looking good with 37 plus. Nathan Martin got an extra move on the Japanese there, and yeah, it's a really, really good burn. Gets him into the final. So if Sam Avazu and Philip Schenk also find high points on the route, more than 33 plus, that big group currently tied, all drop out of the finals position.
Yeah, it's a 4-way tie for 6th on hold 33 plus as it stands. There we see beautiful Karwendel Mountains here in Innsbruck, and there is the women's results. Ashima Shirashi, Brooke Rabbittu, Laura Agora, Valentina Aguado, Noah Ark, Sandra Lettner, Giorgio Tessio, Chiara Schäfer, Selina Schäuble will be the 9 climbers through today. Karin Kojima just misses out in 10th. So Sam Avazu, there's a climbing family for you, the Avazus.
His mum, Cecil Avazu, had an incredible career in the bouldering. If you speak French, he actually commentated on the Paris World Championships as part of the French media team there. Incredible family of super strong climbers. I don't know what they eat over breakfast, but yeah, could let us all know would be handy.
Again, hair dye bin in action. He's obviously in sail in Super U. Fontainebleau. Sam is underway. The route setters will be hoping he can really push through to a high point here and shunt down that group that's currently tied on 33 plus, so we don't get too many climbers through to this evening's final. He won the Youth B lead in Guangzhou last year, top in the final, top in the semi-final. Moves up to Youth A now. Doesn't seem to have slowed him down at all. Moved up an age category, but still qualified 2nd into today's semi-final.
That's impressive. When you come into an age category, you're effectively at the bottom of the, well, out of 2 years, you're effectively at the bottom of the that group in terms of your age. So it's impressive that he's managed to keep his results really high, moving up into a different age category.
Yeah, in Youth B last year, I just mentioned he won the lead climbing in Guangzhou, 4th in the bouldering and 11th in the speed. So the Avazu family clearly not done with collecting medals in climbing competitions.
The French, as we saw, there's 2 French in the Youth B overall Olympic competition tomorrow out of 6, joined by 4 Japanese, but the French obviously concentrating on the overall. They do have a good speed training facility. They do concentrate on the speed quite a lot. Really fast climbing here, really neat through that go again move, no hesitation whatsoever, looking around, taking in oxygen. This is looking really good from Sam Avazu. Looks so composed up there. That's hold 33, just strain on his face a little bit, grits his teeth now, needs to drop into 33 plus. New sequence required there, does well. That's hold 34.
So that's a place in the final for Sam Avazu. You can see how hard he's fighting. You can see from the look on his face, and he is off and out of there and into the final. Such a superb climber in Youth B category, interestingly enough. Won European Youth Cups in both lead and boulder. When you can not only survive and thrive in 2 disciplines, but actually win major competitions in 2 disciplines, you really are a contender, and Sam Avazu will have a chance to win here in Innsbruck. As I said, won the Youth B. Could he step up in age group and then win again this time round? What an achievement that would be. We will see tonight. He'll have his opportunity. As I mentioned, beautiful afternoon here in Innsbruck. Certainly the best day we've had here. The first day where the crowd are in t-shirts. Even when the sun's been out, it's been chilly and accompanied with quite a wind. But today, bright, hot and sunny. And yet, just enough of a breeze to keep the wall cool. Couldn't really be any more perfect. Here is Philipp Schenk. Won the bouldering. Climbs last in today's semi-final, having topped the qualifying round in the lead.
There was a lot of noise about Philipp Schenk earlier on this week in the bouldering. Like Johnny said, took away the win there. Comes out in first position, qualifying from the qualifying round yesterday. Philipp Schenk, the final climber out in this, the Youth A lead semi-finals here in Innsbruck. Finals for these guys later on tonight.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Philip in the bouldering got a perfect scorecard in the final. 4 tops on the boulders, all of them flashes, got all of them first go, absolutely cruised to victory.
Local FC then saying that he's one of the most outstanding youth climbers of this generation.
Absolutely is as well, and as I said, he absolutely destroyed the competition. 4 tops, all of them flashes in the boulder final. You might be thinking, well, what's he like at speed? 9.41, so under 9.5 seconds in the speed as well.
Depending on how this route goes, high chance we'll be seeing him in the overall combined Olympic event this weekend as well.
Yeah, almost certainly there's 20 athletes going through from Youth A, 6 in Youth B and 6 in Junior. The reason there's so many more in the Youth A is related to qualification for the Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires next year. It'll be this age category, Youth A, that are represented there. So 20 of this age group going through. Philipp Schenk looking in control as it stands. It's hold number 20 he's on now. Needs 33 plus. The route setters will be hoping he can slightly improve that and shunt that group of 4 climbers tied on 33 plus out of the top 8, so he won't take too many climbers through, but he needs 33 plus to get into the final. He's got a long way to go still. Over 10 moves. 13 moves to be precise before he gets there. Make that 12. That's another one in the bag. Fatigue will increasingly be becoming an issue for all of these athletes. Climbed in lead boulder and speed, Philipp Schenk. Not just in one round either, multiple rounds. Speed, the only one where he hasn't been in multiple rounds. Of course, plenty more action for them to come as well on Sunday when they'll have their combined format.
Yeah, the recovery of these young athletes must be quite staggering, really. Big days here out in Innsbruck, especially with some editors today. It's hot weather. Need to escape that between the rounds, get back, find some air conditioning, take on some food, try and get some recovery. That's move 33 now. Needs 33 plus, needs to make a movement from that hole, drops into it, Croatia's in trouble there, but fights hard. This is good from Finishing. Will we see a top, the only top in this route for the men's? We thought there may have been 2 or 3 after the great burns earlier in the route. This is good now for Philip Schenk. Fighting towards the top of the wall. No top in the women's route, but Philip Schenk's pushing through it in the men's. Oh, it comes off just 3 moves from the top. It's a good burn, comfortably in first position. Maintains first position after the qualifying round, goes into the finals. He'll come out last later on tonight. Good burn from the Italian athlete, and overall a good semi-finals here in Innsbruck this morning.
Congratulations to the gold medalist of bouldering.
Let's have a look at the results as they are confirmed. We know Ashima Shirashi comfortably winning the women's semi-final. She'll climb last in the final tonight. There we see it, Ashima Shirashi. She'll be joined by her compatriot Brooke Rabatou. They will also be alongside Laura Gola, Valentina Aguado, Nolwenn Ark, Sandra Lettner, Georgia Tessio, Chiara Schafera and Selena Schäuble. That will be the 9 going through in the women's competition. Let's have a look at the men when the results are confirmed. There we see it, Philip Schenk, 39 for him. Nathan Martin will join him in the final, having set that high mark earlier on. Louis Gundolf, Shuti Tanaka, Sam Havasu, Leo Ferreira, Mikel Molina and Stefan Schertz will go through, just 8 men through, as we would hope in the league climbing. Keita Dohe misses out in 9th. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning in Innsbruck. We'll be back at 7 p.m. for this Youth A final, and then at 8:30 p.m. we'll have the Junior final. Hope to see you for both of them. Thank you for watching.